But first, at home, the disability support system is broken, but fixing it won't come cheap. The Productivity Commission says the existing regime is unfair and underfunded, so it's proposing a national disability insurance scheme at a cost of $13.5 billion a year. It would probably be funded by a Medicare-style levy, and the Commission says its economic benefits outweigh the cost. But, as political editor Chris Uhlmann explains, the government stopped short of committing to the scheme, saying instead that it shares the vision of disability insurance.
He had the world at his feet. He was an Australian Open junior tennis player, and then he got discovered in that tournament and offered a scholarship to college in Florida, and he went there and just had completed his degree there and was playing tournaments in Europe, and he just got back to Australia and was about to start a job, and actually the day before he was about to start he had a skateboarding accident. It was on a Sunday afternoon, I remember.
My world changed. It took a very long time for me to realise I had had the accident because I was in a coma for over a year and a half.
There's the initial trauma and then there's the ongoing needs for the rest of that person's life.
Graydon Moore was 23 when his life was shattered by chance.
Come on, in the kitchen.
Jackson West's life was preordained.
And because the paediatrician just said, I have no idea how your son will develop, you have to wait and see, it just meant that I actually felt that the normal baby I'd been expecting died a little bit every day until Jackson got to about age 3, when I realised that he was going to be profoundly affected by his chromosome abnormality. There you go. Now those are nice and tight.
What happened to Graydon and Jackson can't be changed, but the disability system that supports them can, and everyone agrees it's broken.
The Productivity Commission has actually used the words unfair, underfunded, under-resourced, inequitable.
The Commission's report on disability care finds a system fractured between levels of government. It doesn't have enough money and there are too many gaps. It's confusing, it changes from state to state, and for those thrust into its arms, it's capricious.
I know in Victoria, in a car, you're looked after if it's a car accident, but skateboarding or any of those other accidents, you're not, if it's catastrophic.
You're going to hang on to the railing.
Even injuries from car accidents aren't covered in some states unless you sue, so the costs of care can be crippling.
When you're trying to come to terms with the baby that you've got, not the baby that you wanted, every day is a day of grief and of struggle and of confusion, and you don't know where to go for help, you don't know who can help you, you don't know what help there is.
Because there was no funding for somebody with such a bad accident, they weren't getting the care they should have been getting. And from then on it was just such a battle to try and get him to get the basic and vital life-saving care he needed.
The pressure on carers can be intolerable.
I'll give you one example. About 20 years ago, when my husband Mac had attempted suicide the first time, and he was in the psychiatric ward with a fractured skull, and I had 4 children under the age of 8, and I went to the department looking for some help for Jackson. I was told it wasn't policy and there wasn't any assistance that I could get.
And then, years later, we hear from people in their 80s and 90s who are terrified about what's going to happen to their son or daughter after they die.
So the Productivity Commission has called for change. It recommends the Commonwealth run a national insurance scheme to cover everyone with an existing disability, and it wants the states to settle on a national injury insurance scheme.
The advantage of a national scheme is that regardless of where you live now and regardless of where you might want to live in the future or actually do move to the future, you can direct your own life, you can control your own life.
Fixing the system won't be cheap. Disability insurance would cost nearly $13.5 billion a year and probably be funded by a levy on all taxpayers. Injury insurance adds another $800 million to the bill, funded through modest rate rises, hikes in car insurance premiums and public transport ticket prices. But the Commission argues the economic benefits outweigh the costs.
If a national disability insurance scheme was in place while I had the accident, then I wouldn't have been living in a nursing home and may have survived a lot quicker than I have.
Jessica's name's upside down.
Today the government took a step towards the Commission's plan, but did not commit to it.
Today I'm in a position to say the government shares the vision of the Productivity Commission. We share the vision that our nation needs a national disability insurance scheme.
Hi Julia. Hi Samson, how are you?
The Commission cautioned against haste and the government's happy to comply. It will start negotiating with the states and territories through a select council and give an advisory committee $10 million to start working through the technical details.
There's some people taking photos of you.
Assistant Treasurer Bill Shorten pushed disability insurance onto the government's agenda. He believes it's now unstoppable.
It's been the Labor government, the Gillard government, that's recognised that the status quo is irretrievably broken and that the future has to be very different to the past.
Yet there's no commitment even to trialling disability insurance on a small scale by 2014, something the Commission recommended. And Sally Richards believes all the research and talking has been done.
Well, I would have liked a commitment. I think it's about time that, in Australia we really do have a second-class disability system, and in a country as rich as ours, there's no excuse for that at all, none whatsoever.